What's going on, you all? It's your boy Dom Kemp here, and today we're back with another sports NBA podcast, you all. We're going to recap round one of the first basketball games that occurred yesterday, April 13th, the first day of the playoffs. So let's jump into it. We will be talking about the Brooklyn Nets versus the Philadelphia 76ers, the Orlando Magic versus the Toronto Raptors, the Golden State Warriors versus the LA Clippers, and the Denver Nuggets versus the San Antonio Spurs. So I hope you all go on to enjoying this. We are going to get through the notes, and I'm going to be recapping what ended up happening in all these games. So let's jump into it. First off, we start off with the Brooklyn Nets versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Brooklyn steals their first game against the 76ers on their home floor. That was something I was not expecting, but Joel Embiid was not fully healthy in this game. Let's start off with the Nets having a great first half overall, overpowering the 76ers and kind of surprising them in a way. Jimmy Butler ends the half with a three-point buzzer beater, so that gave them a little bit of momentum going into the second half. The 76ers trailed most of the game. If you watched it, they trailed most of the game, and it was a struggle trying to get back each and every time because the Magic would continue to score on the 76ers. The Brooklyn Nets would continue to score on the 76ers with Russell and Spencer Dinwiddie. The 76ers struggled rotating on the defensive assignment, so you would see a lot of them getting slower to contesting the jump shots or the three-pointers that the Nets did shoot. Like I said earlier, Joel Embiid was not fully healthy in this game. A lot of the commentators were saying that as well, and he was just struggling through most of the game. He had a good game overall. It just was not his usual game, his usual performance. The Brooklyn Nets, they had a heck of a game, and they ended up overall stealing game one from the Philadelphia 76ers on their home court. So it was a surprise. Brooklyn coming into Philadelphia, you weren't really expecting them to do much, but the 76ers not fully healthy with, of course, their main star. And let's be honest, the main star on the team for the 76ers is Joel Embiid, not Ben Simmons. It's a struggle. It's a struggle, especially when Ben Simmons cannot hit any jump shots. That is most definitely a struggling thing when you are a point guard and all you do is slash and pass. That's not going to work in the playoffs, and it's not going to get you far. I'm just saying. D'Angelo Russell had 26 points in this game for the leading scoring for the Brooklyn Nets. Ed Davis had 16 rebounds for the Brooklyn Nets. So those were the leaders in rebounds and points for the Nets. Now we go to the Philadelphia 76ers. Jimmy Butler with 36 points. Joel Embiid still had a fantastic game on the boards, 15 rebounds. Not in the scoring category, though, because that was Jimmy Butler's assignment this night. Brooklyn 111-102 in Philly. So a great win for the Brooklyn Nets. It should be interesting to see how the rest of the series plays out, and it can be possibly an upset. But is it really considered an upset if one of the teams isn't fully healthy with their star player? We'll have to find out in game two. Orlando Magic versus the Toronto Raptors. This game was an interesting one due to the fact that Orlando was coming into Toronto, and Toronto is a heck of a team, especially this year more so than any other years, and LeBron not being in the Eastern Conference. DJ Augustin contested shots made, and Evan Fournier draining threes. DJ Augustin created a lot of space for himself in this game, hitting threes and contested threes. Nonetheless, he's not the biggest point guard, but he has the most heart, in my opinion, or up into that category of the top 5 players in the NBA at the point guard position with the most heart and not playing in major market franchises. Evan Fournier, he is a beast, a small forward. He can slash, he can shoot. He is one of those players that is going to be hard to guard in this year's playoffs. Orlando dominated the end of the first half. They were just going up. They were playing defense. They were shutting down. They were hitting their threes and mid-range even as well, slashing in the Toronto defense. Danny Green hits a three before the half, time to give a spark. So he ended up shooting a three. It wasn't a buzzer beater. Had a few tenths of a second on the clock, but it should have provided a spark for the Toronto Raptors, which it actually ended up doing so. Michael Carter-Williams on the Magic, that was my question. I was not expecting to see him on the Orlando Magic. He's been to so many teams, the Rockets, I believe, the Chicago Bulls, and I think a few more, but that kind of surprised me. If it surprised you, let me know as well. It was an interesting little bit of a shock. Michael Carter-Williams being traded, I believe, at the trade deadline, I think, onto the Orlando Magic, so that was interesting. Aaron Gordon hitting his threes, man. He's a power forward. He can also play center. Aaron Gordon is usually a freak athlete. He still is a freak athlete, but him hitting threes is a whole problem. If you have to be aware of him slashing as well as shooting the ball, that is going to be a tough matchup, a tough defensive assignment for the opposing team. Orlando, great defense in the final 3 minutes of the game. They were locking up the Raptors. They were locking up Leonard, and every single shot was contested. Even though a few of them were made, they were contested, and they were just playing and swarming the Toronto offense and just making sure that they didn't have anything easy at the rim or in the three-point game. We ended up looking at DJ Augustine's last shot was a three. He ended up sealing the game pretty much, and Kawhi Leonard airballing his attempt at a buzzer beater. We finished the game off with DJ Augustine with 25 points and 10 rebounds. This guy, man, what Kyle Lowry needs to do is lock him up. He cannot be shooting threes willy-nilly and making his contested shots. Now, I'm not saying to double team DJ Augustine, but you need to be pressed up on him. And Kyle Lowry is known for his defense, his pit bull mentality. He's a good defender, man, but not in this game. He got lit up. Kawhi Leonard, 25 points, and Pascal Siakam, 9 rebounds. Lowry had 8 assists. Not a good scoring night for him. He struggled shooting the ball, but it was only a 3-point win for the Orlando Magic in Game 1 of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. The Magic 104, Toronto 101. That is a steal for Brooklyn and the Orlando Magic. I am surprised to see this, but it should be an interesting rest of the playoffs for those two teams, the Brooklyn Nets and the Orlando Magic. We'll see if they can advance into the next round, but obviously it's only Game 1, so we'll be back with Game 2 in the future. And third game was the Golden State Warriors versus the LA Clippers. This was an interesting game with a lot of tempers flaring, especially between KD and Patrick Beverly. We're going to take a look. Lou Williams tearing up the Warriors defense in the first half, and even in the latter stages of the game, he could just score. He was slashing, he was shooting. Lou Williams, the greatest six-man of all time, in my opinion, and that's why they have him off the bench instead of in the starting lineup, because he wouldn't be as effective with the defense tiring and things of that sort. He can just come in off the bench and give you buckets, man. That's the best thing about him. Montrezl Harrell, a phenomenal first half, had over 20-plus points, over 10 rebounds, I believe. He was just going off, but it later petered out in the end of the game because that was, of course, then DeMarcus Cousins. He was actually paying more attention to Montrezl Harrell and not allowing him to do much else. The Warriors' aggressive defense. That was a takeaway for me. The Warriors, man, when the playoffs hit, they start becoming serious, man. They start playing seriously, and that is what we ended up seeing last night. The Warriors just swarming on defense, making sure that the Clippers had no easy opportunities. Even though it was a close game in the first 3 quarters, in the fourth quarter, they started to run away with it, man. Stephen Curry hitting crazy contested threes. Obviously, he does this every single night, but Curry, man, you cannot stop him. He also became the leading 3-point scorer in NBA playoff history, so he broke that record as well. He just cannot miss, man. He's one of the greatest shooters of this generation, if not the greatest shooter of all time, in my opinion. You just cannot stop him. How he's making these contested threes at his stature, he's only 6'3", and the reason I say only 6'3" is because there's a lot of other point guards who are taller, and he looks short on the court, but he is a beast, man. One of the greatest of all time. And we go to close around the third quarter, aka fourth quarter, with about 5 minutes left. Yes, it was in the fourth quarter, 5 minutes left. Both Katie and Patrick Beverly thrown out of the game because of Durant barking at Beverly. Now, what happened was they were in not a half-court set. Yeah. They were in a half-court set. Patrick Beverly, he was dribbling on the sideline a bit. Then Kevin Durant, he got all up in Patrick Beverly, obviously forcing him to the ground. And then he just yells at Patrick Beverly. What's wrong with Kevin Durant? Now, obviously, the referee called a foul on KD, but that was going to be it. But then Kevin Durant, while Patrick Beverly's on the ground, he barks at him like a dog. And then Patrick Beverly, he gets up, he barks back at him, and both of them are thrown out because obviously the referee's in between both of them, and here's what they're saying. So, hey, they were both thrown out for good reason. My only thing is, what are you doing, Kevin Durant? Man, imagine if he did that in the NBA Finals. Now, obviously, everyone knows that Patrick Beverly is that type of player. He trash talks the whole game. He talks. He trash talks and plays good defense. That is what he's known for pretty much. And it's like, what's the point, Kevin Durant? What's the point? What if it was a close game? Now, obviously, Stephen Curry, man, he said, I don't care, man. It's not a big deal. 38 points, 15 rebounds for a point guard. He was looking like Russell Westbrook out there, with the exception of him making his three-pointers, and Russell Westbrook not necessarily a three-point shooter, but a slasher and a passer. He ended up getting 15 rebounds, leading rebounder, man. That was just a good game from Curry, and when Stephen Curry is rebounding, you have to look out because he doesn't normally rebound like this right here. Montrezl Harrell, 26 points. Lou Will, 9 assists. And like I said earlier, Stephen Curry sets the NBA playoff record for most threes. The Warriors win this game 121-104 fairly easily, but that's what you expect from a Golden State Warriors team with a starting lineup of 5 All-Stars. Moving on, Denver Nuggets versus the San Antonio Spurs. Now, this was an interesting game. I am living in Colorado, so I am in a way a Denver Nuggets basketball fan, but this was an interesting game for the Nuggets in this one, and I was kind of surprised about this. I was definitely surprised because a name I have never heard of from the San Antonio Spurs ended up just killing the Denver Nuggets, including dunking on Paul Millsap. So what I took away from this game was the Nuggets' good defense. They started off playing just good defense, blocking shots, contesting everything, and allowing the Spurs to miss a lot as well. The Spurs were out hustling the Nuggets, though. So with the Nuggets' good defense, it wasn't like they were out hustling the Spurs, because the Spurs are coached by Gregg Popovich, and Gregg Popovich makes sure that they have a good defense, which they did have a good defense in this game, out hustling the Nuggets a lot. And their bench points were crucial, because if they did not score off the bench, then I believe the Nuggets would have won this game. But when you have LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, and, of course, DeMar DeRozan, this is an underrated Spurs team. Not a lot of people are paying attention to the Spurs, but I wasn't really surprised with the overall result, because coaching matters in the NBA. And when you have a good defense and an efficient offense like the Spurs do, you can do anything in the playoffs. Rudy Gay, he had an explosive first half. He was absolutely going off in this game. He played very well as well. Then Derek White. I have never heard of this kid before in my life, but his dunk on Paul Millsap, my lord. Paul Millsap, man. You are a power forward and a point guard or a shooting guard. I'm not sure which position he plays. He probably plays and alternates with both. But here, let's say for this example, a point guard. Dunking on Paul Millsap. The only time you see a point guard dunking on a power forward or center is either Russell Westbrook or Derrick Rose in the past. You don't see that very often. And this kid, man, he got up there and just slammed on Paul Millsap's dome piece and got the foul. So, oh my lord, man. It was just a disaster for Paul Millsap tonight. Or yesterday night, I should say. And the San Antonio Spurs were hitting daggers late in the game, which ended up losing the motivation for the Denver Nuggets to actually score. But that was not an excuse, because what ended up happening was DeRozan hitting mid-range jumpers as well. His consistency from the mid-range is like how when Kobe played, he was just hitting mid-range jumpers. And DeMar DeRozan, he is a mid-range deadeye, man. He cannot miss very often from three. Even if it hits the rim 5 times, it still eventually goes in. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So what ended up happening was Jamal Murray for the Denver Nuggets, the point guard, misses a late wide open mid-range. He had the screen set from Jokic. I thought he was going to pass it to Jokic, but no, he took it himself. He wanted to be the savior of Denver. Misses the mid-range jumper. He was wide open. Missed it right off the rim. Unfortunate for him. But he had another opportunity, you all. He had an opportunity. He was dribbling up the court, but Derek White, man, this kid on defense, and he is like a mixture of Russell Westbrook, and with him being able to shoot, he is a beast. He's like a Russell Westbrook type without slashing every single time. He slashes when he has to. He shoots when he has to and actually makes it. Obviously, it's only game 1, but he is a good player for the Spurs. But what happened was Jamal Murray was dribbling up the court, and Derek White met him at half court. He steals the ball off of Murray, and that ended up resulting in the end of the game. How he played defense, and I'll say this, Jamal Murray is no slouch on dribbling the basketball, man. He is a good dribbler. The problem is he just got caught up in the moment. He should have passed it to someone else, especially when you see a player who is playing defense. As soon as you hit the half-court line, you got to pass that up. I don't care who you are, unless you're Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving, he can make something out of nothing. But I think there are going to be more playoff games tonight, you all, and I will be covering those, whether it's later tonight or, of course, on Monday. But let me take a look real quick to make sure. Oh, yeah. So with the leading scorer was DeMar DeRozan, had 18 points and 12 rebounds, leading in both categories. Gary Harris had 20 points. Jokic had 14 rebounds and 14 assists. That's great to have, Jokic, but you need to do something when you're against LaMarcus Aldridge. Now, I'll say this. LaMarcus Aldridge is no slouch. He's a good defender. He is a good shooter from the mid-range, especially. But it's just one of those things, man. He just struggled offensively. He got the 14 rebounds and 14 assists, which is no easy task as well. But I'm telling you, if Jokic started scoring how he scored in the regular season, he would have definitely had an impact on this game. And I believe that the Nuggets would have won because the final score was 101-96, only a few more buckets, and then most definitely the Nuggets would have had an opportunity to win the game. But the Spurs still game 1. Gregg Popovich becomes the all-time winningest coach in NBA history. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. You all are awesome. I am going to be as consistent as I possibly can, especially with recapping these playoff games each and every day they are being played. But that's it, you all. Thank you so much for listening. Like and subscribe, and I will talk to you all later. Peace.